Hi, how are you doing? This is AWS By Doing. I'm Madhu Vasudevan from the AWS By Doing team. Welcome to this educational video series, AWS By Doing, wherein you can learn AWS Cloud Computing by following along with an AWS Certified Solutions Architect. We acknowledge and thank the official AWS documentation material which we have used to produce this educational video. Although we will try to keep all resources consumed eligible for the free tier, ensuring that you are not charged or minimizing your charges is your responsibility. To minimize charges, remember to delete all created chargeable resources after each session. For more labs, check out the link to our full playlist from the description below. This time, we will walk you through a hands-on lab on download and install Git in your local computer, create Git credentials for your user in IAM, set up the public and private keys for the Git and CodeCommit, create a CodeCommit repository, download the sample application from the GitHub repository, clone the CodeCommit repository in your local computer, push the sample code from the local repository to CodeCommit, review the application files from the CodeCommit console, create an EC2 Linux instance and install the CodeDeploy agent, create an application in CodeDeploy, create your first pipeline in CodePipeline, modify the code locally and push it to the CodeCommit repository, verify the automatic deployment of updated application by the CodePipeline, and delete all created resources. The estimated cost for doing this hands-on is no charge, as AWS CodePipeline and EC2 instances are free tier eligible. The prerequisite AWS skill level is beginner with general understanding of AWS CodePipeline concepts. To set up a free tier eligible AWS account and a user with sufficient permissions, check out our video on Create Admin User. In this hands-on, you use CodePipeline to deploy code maintained in a CodeCommit repository to a single Amazon EC2 instance. Your pipeline is triggered when you push a change to the CodeCommit repository. The pipeline deploys your changes to an Amazon EC2 instance using CodeDeploy as the deployment service. The pipeline has two stages, a source stage called source for your CodeCommit source action and a deployment stage called deploy for your CodeDeploy deployment action. All the links, commands, and code snippets used in this hands-on are available in the description below. First, we need to install Git in your local computer. I will demonstrate a Git installation using the windows.exe installer file. The standalone download is available at this link. Copy it and paste it on a browser tab window. Click here to download manually. Run the installer with all default options. Hopefully you have a successful installation. To verify successful installation, open a terminal or Windows PowerShell and run the command git --version. The first thing you should do when you install Git is to set your username and email address. This is important because every Git commit uses this information and it is immutably baked into the commits you start creating. Configure the username and configure the user email. You need to do this only once if you pass the --global option. If you want to override this with a different name or email address for specific projects, you can run the command without the --global option or with the --local option when you are in that project. Verify your Git configuration with the git config --list command. At the very bottom, you can see the configured username and email ID. Next, we need to set up the public and private keys for the Git and CodeCommit. From a terminal or Windows PowerShell, run these commands. Change directory to home. Make directory .ssh. It is okay if you get an error here because subdirectory .ssh may already exist, as it does in my case. Change directory to .ssh. Run the key generation command. Read the prompts carefully, and if it asks for enter passphrase, just hit enter, again enter, and you're done. Check what got created with the ls command. The ssh-keygen command generated the two files, the CodeCommit_RSA file, which is the private key file, and the CodeCommit_RSA.pub file, which is the public key file. Run this command to display the value of the public key file, CodeCommit_RSA.pub. Copy the contents of the file and then close Notepad without saving. Ctrl A, Ctrl C, or right-click Copy and close. Next, from a browser window, sign in to the AWS Management Console and open the IAM console. In the IAM console, in the navigation pane, select Users. From the list of users, choose your IAM user. On the User Details page, choose the Security Credentials tab. And then scroll down and choose Upload SSH Public Key. Paste the contents of your SSH public key into the field. Ctrl V, and then choose Upload SSH Public Key. Copy or save the information in SSH Key ID. Let me save it here. Next, you need to create a config file in the .ssh directory. From a terminal or Windows PowerShell, run these commands. cd to your home folder, open the config file with your text editor. Click OK. Add these lines to the file where the value for user is the SSH key ID you copied earlier. Save the notepad file as config dot and save type as all files. Click on Save. Close Notepad. With your File System Explorer, confirm that the name of the file is config with no file extension. Otherwise, the SSH connection will fail. Check the content of your config file with this command. Run this command to test your SSH configuration. You may be asked to confirm the connection because git-codecommit.us-east-2.amazonaws.com may not yet be included in your known host file, in which case just key in a yes and hit enter. To troubleshoot problems, run the SSH command with the -v parameter. Next step, you create a CodeCommit repository. Open the CodeCommit console from a browser tab. In the region selector, choose the AWS region where you want to create the repository and pipeline. I will go with US West, Oregon, or US West 2. On the repositories page, choose Create Repository. On the Create Repository page, in repository name, enter a name for your repository. Description is optional. Scroll down and click Create. In this step, you set up a local repository to connect to your remote CodeCommit repository. Click on the SSH tab. Expand the operating system. In my case, it is Windows. Scroll down and copy the clone repository command. From a terminal or Windows PowerShell in your local computer, run this command to clone the repository. This command creates a directory called MyDemoRepo. Later, you will copy a sample application to this directory. Navigate to your working folder. Which in my case is Downloads. Use the tab to quicken things. And run the git clone command that you had copied to your clipboard buffer. Like so. You may be asked to confirm the connection because git CodeCommit US West 2 may not yet be included in your known host file. Type in yes and hit enter. After you have confirmed the connection, you should see confirmation that you have added the server to your known host file and a successful connection message. Next, you download the code for a sample application that was created for a CodeDeploy sample walkthrough and add it to your CodeCommit repository. Copy this link from the description and paste it to a new browser window, like so, and hit enter. Download starts right away. Locate the downloaded zip file and unzip the files from sampleapp_linux.zip into the local directory you created earlier called mydemo_repo. Be sure to place the files directly into your local repository. Do not include a sample app_linux folder. Your directory and file hierarchy should look like this. Next, you create your first commit in your local repository. From a terminal or Windows PowerShell, run these commands. Configure the Git user email ID and user for this local repository. Run this command to stage all of your files for commit at once. Check the Git status. And run the commit command. Run the git push command to push the files from your local repo to your CodeCommit repository. The files you downloaded and added to your local repo have now been added to the master branch in your CodeCommit mydemo_repo repository and are ready to be included in a pipeline. After you have pushed files to your CodeCommit repository, you can use the CodeCommit console to view the contents. From the AWS Management Console, open the CodeCommit console. On the repositories page, from the list of repositories, choose the repository you want to browse, but before that, confirm that you are in the right region. Click on your repository, select your active branch from the drop-down, and browse your folders and files. Next, you create the EC2 instance where you deploy a sample application. As part of this process, you install the CodeDeploy agent on the EC2 instance. The CodeDeploy agent is a software package that enables an instance to be used in CodeDeploy deployments. You also attach an IAM role to the instance, known as an instance role, to allow it to fetch files that the CodeDeploy agent uses to deploy your application. To create an instance role, open the IAM console. From the navigation pane, choose Roles. click on Create Role. Under Select Type of Trusted Entity, select AWS Service. Under Choose a Use Case, select EC2 and click on Next Permissions. Search for and select the policy named Amazon EC2 role for AWS CodeDeploy. Amazon EC2 role for AWS CodeDeploy. Select that and click on Next Tags. Tags are optional. Click on Next Review. Enter a name for this role. EC2 instance role and click on Create Role. Your role is created. To launch an instance, open the Amazon EC2 console. From the console dashboard, choose Launch Instance and select Launch Instance from the options that pop up. Select the free tier eligible Amazon Linux 2 AMI, which can be found at the top of the list. Choose the free tier eligible T2.micro type and click Next, Configure Instance Details. For number of instances, go with 1. In Auto Assign Public IP, choose Enable. In IAM role, choose the IAM role you created in the previous procedure named EC2 instance role. Scroll down, expand Advanced Details. Available in the description is the user data to install the CodeDeploy agent. Copy this user data to your clipboard buffer and paste it under user data. This code installs the CodeDeploy agent on your instance as it is created. Leave the rest of the items on the Step 3 Configure Your Instance Details page unchanged and choose Next, Add Storage. Take the defaults here and click on Next, Add Tags. Choose Add Tag. In key, enter name. And in value, enter my code pipeline demo. And remember this tag. Choose Next. Later, you will create a deploy application that deploys the sample application to this instance. CodeDeploy selects instances to deploy based on the tags that are attached to the instances. On the Configure Security Group page, next to Assign a Security Group, choose Create a New Security Group. In the row for SSH, under Source, choose My IP, click on Add Rule, select HTTP, and under Source, select My IP. Click on Review and Launch. On the Review Instance Launch page, choose Launch. When prompted for a key pair, choose Proceed without a key pair. For the purposes of this hands-on, you can proceed without a key pair. To use SSH to connect to your instances, do create a key pair. Acknowledge that you will not connect and click on Launch Instances. Click on View Instances. You can view the status of the launch on the Instances page. When you launch an instance, its initial state is pending. After the instance starts, its state changes to running and it receives a public DNS name. It can take a few minutes for the instance to be ready for you to connect to it. View the information in the status checks column to see if your instance has passed its status checks. Click Refresh. You now need to create an application in CodeDeploy. In CodeDeploy, an application is a resource that contains the software application you want to deploy. Later, you use this application with CodePipeline to automate deployments of the sample application to your Amazon EC2 instance. First, you create a role that allows CodeDeploy to perform deployments. Then you create a CodeDeploy application. To create a CodeDeploy service role, open the IAM console. From the navigation pane, choose Roles. Click on Create Role. Under Select Type of Trusted Entity, select AWS Service. Under Choose a Use Case, click on CodeDeploy. And then click on Next Permissions. The AWS CodeDeploy role managed policy is already attached to the role. Choose Next Tags, which are optional, and then click on Next Review. Enter a name for the role like CodeDeploy role and click on Create Role. Your CodeDeploy role is created. To create an application in CodeDeploy, open the CodeDeploy console. In the Regions drop-down menu, make sure you are in the correct region that you have chosen for this hands-on. On the navigation pane, click on Applications. Click on Create Application. Enter an application name. For compute platform, from the drop-down, choose EC2/on-premises and click on Create Application. Next, you need to create a deployment group. A deployment group is a resource that defines deployment-related settings like which instances to deploy to and how fast to deploy them. On the page that displays your application, choose Create Deployment Group. Enter a deployment group name. Scroll down. In Service Role, choose the service role you created earlier. Under Deployment Type, choose In Place. Under Environment Configuration, choose Amazon EC2 Instances. In the Key field, enter the name you used to tag the instance. For value, remember My CodePipeline Demo. Select that. Scroll down. Under Deployment Configuration, choose CodeDeploy Default, one at a time. Under Load Balancer, clear Enable Load Balancing. You do not need to set up a load balancer to choose a target group for this example. Click on Create Deployment Group. Your deployment group has been created. You are now ready to create and run your first pipeline. To create a code pipeline, sign in to the AWS Management Console and open the Code Pipeline console. Click on Create Pipeline after ensuring that you are in the right region. In step 1, choose Pipeline Settings. In Pipeline Name, enter My First Pipeline. In Service Role, choose New Service Role to allow CodePipeline to create a service role in IAM. Leave the settings under Advanced Settings in their defaults and click on Next. In step 2, add source stage. In Source Provider, choose AWS CodeCommit. In Repository Name, choose the name of the CodeCommit repository you created earlier, My Demo Repo. In Branch Name, choose Master. Under Change Detection Options, leave the defaults. This allows CodePipeline to use Amazon CloudWatch events to detect changes in your source repository. Choose Next. In this hands-on, you are deploying code that requires no build service, so you can skip this step of Add Build stage. However, if your source code needs to be built before it is deployed to instances, you can configure code build in this step. Choose Skip Build stage and then accept the warning message by choosing Skip again. In step 4, Add Deploy stage, in Deploy Provider, choose AWS CodeDeploy. In Application Name, choose My Demo Application. And for Deployment Group, choose My Demo Deployment Group. Click Next. The pipeline starts running after it is created. It downloads the code from your CodeCommit repository and creates a CodeDeploy deployment to your EC2 instance. You can view progress and success and failure messages at the CodePipeline sample as it deploys the web page to the Amazon EC2 instance in the CodeDeploy deployment. In step 5 review the information and then choose Create Pipeline. Congratulations, you have just created a simple pipeline in CodePipeline. Next, verify the results. To verify your pipeline ran successfully, view the initial progress of the pipeline. The status of each stage changes from the no executions yet to in progress and then to either succeeded or failed. The pipeline should complete the first run within a few minutes. After succeed is displayed for the pipeline status, in the status area for the deploy stage, choose AWS CodeDeploy. This opens the CodeDeploy console. If succeeded is not displayed, then you have to troubleshoot. Click on the Deployments tab. Choose the latest deployment ID. On the page for this specific deployment, under Deployment Lifecycle Events, choose the instance ID. This opens the EC2 console. On the Description tab, in Public DNS, copy the address to your clipboard and then paste it into the address bar of your web browser. Open a new tab and we are good. This is the sample application you downloaded and pushed to your CodeCommit repository. Your pipeline is configured to run whenever code changes are made to your CodeCommit repository. In the next step, you will make changes to the HTML file that is part of the sample CodeDeploy application in the CodeCommit repository. When you push these changes, your pipeline should run again, and the changes you make should be visible at the web address you accessed earlier. To edit the sample web app code, locate the index.html file in the My Demo repo folder and open it using your preferred text editor. So let's start a terminal or Windows PowerShell. For those who are not already there, we can navigate to our My Demo repo folder. Use a text editor to modify the index.html file. I'll just use Notepad. Let's look at our application one more time. Let's change the background and foreground colors and some of the text on the web page, and let us save the file. Save the changes and close Notepad. Next, we stage, review, commit, and push the modified index.html file to our code repository. These are the commands we can run from a terminal or Windows PowerShell window. After navigating to our repo folder, key in git add index.html, check git status, next run the git commit command, check the git status. Before you push the finalized commit from the local repo to the CodeCommit repository, you can see what you're pushing by running the git diff --stat remote name /branch name command, where remote name is the nickname that the local repo uses for the CodeCommit repository, and branch name is the name of the branch to compare. To get the nickname, run git remote, like so. To get a list of branch names, run git branch. An asterisk appears next to the current branch. Let's run the git diff command. And we see that index.html file has been modified and will be pushed in our next push command. Run the git push command to update our CodeCommit repository. And we are good. Let's check our code pipeline. After you return to your pipeline in the CodePipeline console, in a few minutes you should see the source change to blue and then eventually to green for succeeded, indicating that the pipeline has detected the changes you made to your source and has redeployed your application. After succeeded is displayed for the action status, refresh the demo page you accessed earlier in your browser. This was the old deployment, and this is the updated sample deployment. Congratulations! You have successfully created an automated software release pipeline using AWS CodePipeline. Using CodePipeline, you created a pipeline that uses AWS CodeCommit as the source location for application code and then deploys the code to an Amazon EC2 instance managed by CodeDeploy. Your pipeline will automatically deploy your code every time there is a code change. You are one step closer to practicing continuous deployment. Cleanup time. To avoid future charges, you will delete all the resources you launched throughout this hands-on, which includes the pipeline, the code deploy application, and the source you set up to host the code. To delete a pipeline, sign in to the AWS Management Console and open the CodePipeline console. In name, choose the name of the pipeline you want to delete. Click on Delete Pipeline. Confirm the deletion. And click on Delete. Your pipeline has been deleted. Next, we delete the application in CodeDeploy. Deleting an application removes information about the application from the CodeDeploy system, including all related deployment group information and deployment details. Deleting an application created for an EC2/on-premises deployment does not remove any application revisions from instances, nor does it delete revisions from Amazon S3 buckets. Deleting an application created for an EC2/on-premises deployment does not terminate any Amazon EC2 instance or deregister any on-premises instances. And this action of deleting an application cannot be undone. So open the CodeDeploy console. In the navigation pane, expand Deploy. Click on Applications. Select the application you wish to delete and click on Delete Application. Confirm by typing delete and click on Delete. And your demo application has been successfully deleted. To delete the CodeCommit repository, open the CodeCommit console. Ensure you're on the right region. Choose the name of the repository you want to delete and click on Delete Repository. Confirm the deletion by typing delete and click on Delete. You have successfully deleted your repository. To delete the local repository from our computer, exit out of your Windows PowerShell. Use your local machine's directory and file management tools to delete the directory that contains the local repo. Remember, deleting a local repo does not delete or affect any CodeCommit repository to which it might be connected. After you delete your remote CodeCommit repository, you are no longer able to clone it to any local repo or shared repo. You are also no longer able to pull data from it or push data to it from any local repository or shared repository. This action of deleting your CodeCommit repository cannot be undone. Finally, clean up your instance from the EC2 console. Check your region. On the navigation pane, click on Instances. Locate and select your My CodePipeline demo instance. From the Actions drop-down, click on Instance State and click on Terminate. Choose Yes, Terminate when prompted for confirmation. Amazon EC2 shuts down and terminates your instance. After your instance is terminated, it remains visible on the console for a short while, and then the entry is deleted. Thus, we have deleted all the chargeable resources that we had created during this hands-on session. Thanks for following along. Please like this video to encourage us. Share this video with your friends and colleagues. Also, subscribe to this channel, AWS By Doing, and we will update you regularly with our latest and greatest offerings. Write in a comment of what you liked and how we can improve. Again, check out our playlist for more labs from the link in the description below. Happy cloud computing, and we will see you again in the next episode from the AWS By Doing team.